Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he worked on the coolant line deep inside Orbital Station Horizon's engineering section. The metal corridor was hot and cramped, filled with the hum of machinery that kept the massive station running smoothly. "How's it looking up there?" Kyle Chun called from below, holding the portable scanner steady while Jake worked on the valve assembly overhead. "Almost got it," Jake replied, his hands moving carefully around the corroded connection point that had been leaking coolant for the past 2 days. Station maintenance had reported pressure drops in this section, and the engineering team needed to fix it before it became a serious problem. The station was home to over 50 different species from across the Galactic Union, all living and working together in what was supposed to be a symbol of peaceful cooperation. Humans had only joined the Union 3 months ago, after first contact with the Centauri explorers who had discovered Earth's radio signals. Jake twisted his wrench around the stubborn bolt, feeling it finally give way under the pressure. Working in the station's lower gravity made some tasks easier, but others required more careful attention to avoid floating away mid-repair. "Got it," he announced, pulling the damaged valve free from its housing. The metal was corroded badly and would need complete replacement. Rather than just a patch job, Kyle checked his scanner and nodded with approval. "Pressure's equalizing in the backup line. We should be able to swap this out in about 20 minutes if everything goes smoothly." That was when things stopped going smoothly. The backup valve that was supposed to hold pressure suddenly failed with a sharp metallic crack. Jake heard it a split second before he saw the spray of coolant and debris exploding from the junction box beside him. "Jake, move!" Kyle shouted from below, but there was no time to react. Metal fragments struck Jake's left arm and shoulder with brutal force, tearing through his uniform and into flesh. He felt himself thrown backward against the corridor wall, his vision blurring from the impact. The pain came a moment later, sharp and overwhelming, radiating from multiple wounds across his upper body. Blood began spreading across his torn uniform in dark patches that looked black under the corridor's blue emergency lighting. Kyle was beside him instantly, his hands pressing against the worst of the wounds while shouting into his communication device. "Medical emergency in Engineering Section 7. We need immediate assistance. Human crew member injured badly." Jake's head was ringing, but he stayed conscious, his training keeping him focused despite the pain. He could feel the warm flow of blood between Kyle's fingers and knew the injuries were serious. "Stay with me, buddy," Kyle said, his voice tight with worry as he maintained pressure on the wounds. "Help is coming. Just hang on." The emergency response was fast. Less than 2 minutes passed before the medical team arrived with their floating stretcher and portable equipment. Dr. Velis, the station's chief medical officer, led the team. The Centauri physician had 6 limbs and translucent blue skin that revealed the complex network of vessels beneath. Their species was known throughout the Union for medical expertise. Human patient. Multiple lacerations, significant blood loss. Kyle reported quickly as the medical team surrounded Jake. Dr. Velis approached cautiously, having never treated a human before despite 3 months of humans living on the station. Their species had medical records, but practical experience was limited. The doctor's sensors passed over Jake's injuries while their assistants prepared bandaging materials and coagulation compounds designed for carbon-based life forms. Was when Dr. Velis stopped moving. Their sensory organs focused intently on something that seemed to disturb them. The metallic scent rising from the human's blood was unlike anything they had encountered before. "What is that smell?" Velis asked, their translator converting the question into standard Union speech that Jake's implant rendered as English. "What smell?" Jake managed to ask through gritted teeth. Confused by the question, "Your blood," Velis responded, their medical scanner working overtime to analyze the crimson fluid spreading across Jake's uniform. "It smells like metal, like processed iron compounds," Kyle looked equally confused by the question. Yeah, that's normal for humans. Blood has iron in it. Dr. Vella's skin flickered through several shades of blue that indicated deep concern among their species. Iron was a heavy metal that most spacefaring species considered toxic in anything. Beyond trace environmental amounts, we need to transport him immediately, Velas announced to the medical team, pushing aside their confusion to focus on the immediate emergency. Prepare the trauma bay for xenobiology protocols. The medical team lifted Jake onto the stretcher with practiced efficiency. Their movements, gentle despite the urgency. The floating platform hummed as it engaged its gravity compensators. Jake tried to stay alert as they moved through the station corridors at high speed. Other station residents stepped aside quickly when they saw the emergency medical team approaching. Various species showing concern in their own unique ways. The trauma bay was pristine and filled with equipment designed to treat dozens of different biological systems. Dr. Velas directed their team with calm authority despite the uncertainty of treating a species so new to the Union. Apply pressure to the major vessels. Use the broad-spectrum coagulant from the xenobiology stores, Velas ordered while their own limbs worked to cut away Jake's damaged uniform and expose the injuries fully. The wounds were deep and jagged, torn flesh revealing the biological structures beneath. Velas worked quickly to clean and seal the worst of the lacerations while their medical scanners built a detailed map of human anatomy in real time. What struck Velas most was Jake's consciousness. Most species would have fallen into shock from this level of trauma and blood loss. Yet the human remained aware and responsive, his vital signs elevated but stable. You're going to be fine, Velas said, their bedside manner activating automatically despite their internal concerns. We're sealing the wounds now in your bodies. Clotting mechanisms are already engaging. Jake nodded weakly. Thanks, Doc. This isn't exactly how I planned to spend my afternoon. The human's attempt at humor during trauma was another oddity that Velas filed away for later consideration. Their species usually became quiet and withdrawn when injured seriously. Emergency treatment took nearly an hour of careful work. Velas sealed each laceration with precision, using scanning technology to ensure no foreign material remained in the wounds that could cause infection. When the immediate danger passed, Velas finally had time to examine the blood samples properly. They loaded a slide into the molecular analyzer and waited for the results to display. What appeared on the screen made Velas freeze in place, their skin cycling rapidly through colors that indicated shock and disbelief. Humans' blood was saturated with iron compounds, orders of magnitude higher than any species in the Union medical database. The hemoglobin molecules used iron atoms to bind and transport oxygen with an efficiency that seemed impossible. This wasn't contamination or poisoning. This was normal human biology. Dr. Velas stared at the results for a long moment, then looked back toward the recovery area where Jake Morrison rested under observation. Questions flooded the doctor's mind about what kind of world could produce a species that used toxic heavy metals as the foundation of their respiratory system. Something about humanity was very different from everything the Galactic Union understood about life in the cosmos. Dr. Velas stood over the medical scanner for what felt like hours but was only minutes, their multiple limbs moving nervously as they reviewed the analysis results again and again. The data couldn't be wrong, yet it contradicted everything they knew about biological systems. Jake Morrison lay in the recovery bay behind a translucent privacy screen, his wounds sealed and bandaged with Union medical materials that were already working to prevent infection. The human's vital signs remained stable on the monitoring equipment, showing a cardiovascular system that operated at pressures that would rupture vessels in most species. Velas needed answers before they could complete the medical report. Questions about the iron compounds dominated their thoughts as they approached Jake's bedside. "Mr. Morrison," Velis began carefully, their translator rendering the words and tones meant to sound non-threatening. "I need to ask you some questions about your biology." Jake opened his eyes and managed a weak smile despite his injuries. "Sure thing, DOC. What do you want to know?" "Your blood," Velis said directly, seeing no point in avoiding the topic. "The molecular analysis shows extremely high concentrations of iron compounds. This level would be toxic to every species in our medical database." Jake looked confused by the concern in the doctor's voice. "Yeah, that's just hemoglobin. It's what carries oxygen in our blood. The iron atoms bind to oxygen molecules in our lungs and transport them to our cells." The casual way Jake described it made Velis' skin flicker with agitation. The humans spoke about iron and their circulatory system, the way other species might discuss water or carbon. "But iron is a heavy metal," Velis protested, their medical training rebelling against the concept. "Even small amounts cause cellular damage in most organic systems. Your body should be poisoning itself constantly." Jake shrugged with his uninjured shoulder. "I guess humans just evolved differently. Iron-based blood is completely normal for us. Every human has it." Before Velis could ask more questions, the trauma bay doors opened and Captain Lauren Hayes entered with quick, purposeful steps. The human liaison officer had been notified of Jake's injury and came immediately to check on her crew member. "How is he?" Lauren asked, her eyes scanning Jake's bandaged form with obvious concern. "Stable," Velis replied, then turned to face the new arrival with renewed intensity. "Captain Hayes, I need to understand something about human biology. Is it true that all humans have iron-based blood chemistry?" Lauren nodded without hesitation. "Yes, all humans use hemoglobin for oxygen transport. It's been that way throughout our evolutionary history. Is there a problem?" "A problem?" Velis' skin shifted to deep purple. "Iron is classified as a toxic heavy metal by Union medical standards. No known spacefaring species uses it as a primary biological component." The two humans exchanged glances that suggested they had never considered this might be unusual. Lauren pulled up a chair beside Jake's bed and gestured for Velis to continue their examination. "What else do you need to know?" Lauren asked, her tone cooperative despite the doctor's obvious distress. Velis activated their portable medical scanner and began running more detailed analyses on Jake's recovering body. What the equipment revealed over the next 20 minutes fundamentally challenged everything the doctor understood about biology. Human bone structure was incredibly dense, nearly 3 times heavier than the galactic standard for bipedal species of similar size. The skeletal system could withstand impact forces that would shatter the bones of Centauri or most other Union races. The muscular system showed unusual protein structures that allowed for both explosive strength and sustained endurance. Human muscle tissue was packed with fibers that could operate in both aerobic and anaerobic modes with remarkable efficiency. Most disturbing was the immune system. Velis watched in real time as Jake's white blood cells attacked and destroyed foreign particles with aggressive efficiency that bordered on warfare. The human immune response didn't just defend against infection. It actively hunted and eliminated threats. "Your body is attacking itself constantly," Velis said, unable to hide their shock. "Your immune system is in a perpetual state of warfare. That's just how our immune system works," Jake explained, his voice growing stronger as the medical treatments took effect. "It identifies threats and eliminates them before they can cause harm. Keeps us healthy." Velis pulled up a holographic display and compared human biology to their own species. The differences were staggering in every category. "Tell me about your homeworld," Velis requested, suspecting they already knew the answer but needing confirmation. "What are the environmental conditions on Earth?" Lauren and Jake exchanged another glance before Lauren began describing their planet. Oxygen levels in the atmosphere at around 21%. Gravity approximately 10 meters per second squared. Temperature ranges that swung from well below freezing to dangerously hot. And the radiation exposure? Velis asked, their voice quiet with growing horror. Earth's sun puts out a lot of ultraviolet radiation. Lauren confirmed. Humans produce melanin in our skin to protect against it. People who live near the equator have more melanin than those from polar regions. Velis accessed the Union's planetary classification database and input Earth's parameters. The result appeared almost instantly and confirmed their worst fears. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world. A planet with environmental conditions so harsh that colonization was considered impossible for most Union species. Radiation levels that would cause cellular damage within days. Gravity that would crush the respiratory systems of lighter species. Temperature swings that required constant environmental adaptation. You evolved on a death world, Velis said. The words coming out as a statement rather than a question. Earth's not that bad. Jake protested with a slight laugh that made him wince from his injuries. Sure, it gets hot in summer and cold in winter, but it's home. We've adapted to it over millions of years. The casual dismissal of conditions that would kill most. Union species within hours made Velis' skin cycle through colors rapidly. Their assistant, Nurse Quillix, had entered during the conversation and now stood frozen near the door. Quillix was a methane-breathing species that required a protective environmental suit, even on the carefully controlled station. Hearing about humans living naturally in Earth's conditions without any protection seemed impossible. Your species survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and plague events, Velis said, accessing Earth's geological and historical records. Your history is filled with extinction-level events that you simply endured. Lauren nodded slowly. Humans are survivors, Doctor. We've had to be. Earth didn't make survival easy for us. Velis examined Jake's injuries again through the scanner. In the few hours since treatment, the wounds had already begun the healing process at a rate that seemed accelerated compared to their estimates. How long would it normally take you to heal from these injuries? Velis asked. Jake considered the question. Probably 2 or 3 weeks for the deep cuts to close up completely. Maybe 6 weeks before I'm back to full strength. 2 weeks? Velis repeated, their voice rising in pitch. My initial estimates suggested 2 months minimum for tissue regeneration of this severity. Humans heal pretty fast, Lauren said with evident pride. Our bodies are good at repairing damage. We have to be tough. Nurse Quillix finally found their voice, the translator rendering their speech as a series of concerned whistles. Doctor, if humans can survive in Class 12 environments naturally, what does that mean for their physical capabilities in standard conditions? Velis looked at the two humans with new understanding. In the station's controlled environment with lower gravity and carefully managed atmosphere, humans were operating in conditions far easier than their natural habitat. It means, Velis said slowly, that we have seriously underestimated your species' capabilities. Jake tried to sit up, but Lauren put a gentle hand on his good shoulder to keep him resting. We're not trying to be intimidating, Jake said earnestly. We just want to be good members of the Union and work alongside everyone else. Velis' skin settled into a thoughtful shade of blue as they processed everything they had learned. Humans weren't trying to appear dangerous. They simply were dangerous by virtue of their evolutionary history. I need to report these findings to Commander Dex, Velis announced, already composing the medical briefing in their mind. The Union needs to understand what humanity truly represents. Lauren's expression became more serious. What do you mean by that? I mean, Velis replied carefully, that your species comes from a world that would kill most of us within days. Yet you thrive there. You use toxic metals as the foundation of your biology and think nothing of it. You heal from injuries at impossible speeds and possess physical capabilities beyond our standard measurements. And? Lauren prompted, sensing there was more, and the Galactic Union needs to reassess everything we thought we knew about humans. Velas concluded, looking between the two representatives of Earth with a mixture of fear and fascination. Because you are unlike anything we've ever encountered before. Commander Dex stood at the head of the conference table in the station's command center, their forearms folded across their chest in a gesture that indicated deep thought among their reptilian species. The emergency meeting had been called within an hour of Dr. Velas submitting the medical report on human biology. The conference room held 5 individuals beyond the commander Dr. Velas. Captain Lauren Hayes, Ambassador Richard Cross, Security Chief Vorna, and the station's Chief Science Officer holographic. Displays floated in the center of the table, showing the medical scans of Jake Morrison alongside Earth's planetary data. The information painted a picture that was causing concern throughout the command. Staff, let me be certain I understand this correctly, Commander Dex began, their voice carrying the weight of authority earned through decades of diplomatic service. Humans evolved on a planet that our classification system designates as unsuitable for colonization. That's correct, Commander, Dr. Velas confirmed, manipulating the holographic display to highlight Earth's environmental parameters. Class 12 Death World status means the environment poses extreme danger to most known life forms. Ambassador Cross cleared his throat politely. The Zanzir human diplomat had been stationed on Horizon since first contact, and his presence was meant to facilitate cultural understanding between humans and the Union. With respect, Commander, humans don't consider Earth to be particularly harsh, Cross said diplomatically. It's simply our home. We evolved to thrive in those conditions over millions of years. Security Chief Vorna, an insectoid species with multifaceted eyes that could see in spectrums beyond human vision, leaned forward with obvious concern. Their species was known for being cautious and security-minded. The question is whether humanity poses a threat to the Union, Vorna stated bluntly, their translated words bypassing diplomatic niceties. If humans are this physically capable, we need to assess the security implications. Lauren Hayes bristled slightly at the suggestion, but kept her voice calm and professional. Humanity joined the Union in good faith. We're here to cooperate and learn, not to threaten anyone. Commander Dex raised one hand to forestall further debate. No one is accusing humanity of hostile intent, Captain Hayes. However, we must understand the full scope of what we're dealing with, Dr. Velas. Please continue with your findings. Velas activated another series of displays showing the molecular structure of human hemoglobin with its iron-based oxygen transport system. The chemical diagrams were color-coded to highlight the heavy metal components. Human blood achieves oxygen-carrying efficiency far beyond any species in our medical database, Velas explained, their 6 limbs gesturing at different parts of the display. The iron atoms allow each hemoglobin molecule to bind 4 oxygen molecules simultaneously. This provides tremendous respiratory capacity. The science officer, a floating jellyfish-like being from a low-gravity world, pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that their translator rendered as speech. This would explain the reports from engineering staff about humans performing strenuous labor without apparent fatigue. Humans also possess redundant systems throughout their biology. Velas continued, pulling up anatomical scans. Their cardiovascular system can reroute blood flow around damaged areas. Their immune system attacks threats with coordinated aggression. Even their skeletal structure is designed to withstand impacts that would be fatal to most species. Ambassador Cross interjected again. Seeing the concern growing around the table, I think it's important to understand that humans didn't choose these adaptations. Evolution on Earth required them for survival. Our planet experienced 5 major extinction events that wiped out most life. And humans descended from a species that managed to endure. Your species survived multiple extinction events? Commander Dex asked, their scaled features showing surprise. Not just survived, Lauren added. We thrived afterward. Humans are incredibly adaptable. We live in deserts where temperatures exceed 50 degrees. In Arctic regions where everything freezes solid. In mountains where oxygen levels would leave most species unconscious. Vorna's mandibles clicked together in agitation. This adaptability makes humans unpredictable from a security standpoint, or it makes us valuable allies. Cross countered smoothly. His diplomatic training evident, humanity brings capabilities to the Union that complement existing member species. We're not replacing anyone. We're adding to the collective strength. Dr. Velis brought up medical scans from Jake Morrison's ongoing recovery. The human's wounds are healing at approximately 3 times my initial estimates. His body is regenerating damaged tissue with remarkable efficiency. I've also noted that his pain tolerance is exceptional. Humans experience pain? The science officer asked, their bioluminescence flickering with curiosity. Yes. But our threshold is apparently higher than most species, Lauren explained. Jake remained conscious and coherent during treatment, despite injuries that Dr. Velis says would normally induce shock. Commander Dex studied the displays carefully. Their military background evident in the analytical way they processed the information. Decades of experience had taught them to look beyond immediate concerns to long-term implications. Ambassador Cross, I need you to be completely honest with me, Dex said seriously. Does humanity have any hostile intentions toward the Galactic Union or its member species? Cross met the commander's gaze directly. Absolutely not. Earth's governments were unanimous in their desire to join the Union. Peacefully, humanity has fought enough wars among ourselves to understand the value of cooperation. You fought wars against yourselves? Vorna interjected sharply. Throughout our history, yes, Cross admitted, seeing no point in hiding information that was readily available in human historical databases. But we've also built peace. The current Earth government represents a unified humanity that chose cooperation over conflict. Lauren added her voice to the explanation. Humans aren't saints, Commander. We have a complicated history, but we've learned from our mistakes and we genuinely want to be productive members of the Union. Dr. Velis manipulated the holographic display to show Earth's history of medicine and conflict. The data showed a species that had developed increasingly sophisticated methods of both healing and harm. Humans perform surgery by cutting into living bodies, Velis said. The concept still disturbing to their sensibilities. They removed damaged organs and replaced them with mechanical devices or transplanted tissue from other humans. The science officer pulsed with shocked colors. They willingly damaged themselves to heal? It's called invasive medicine, Cross explained. And yes, humans develop techniques to open the body, repair damage, and close it again. We've been doing this for centuries. Commander Dex absorbed all the information silently. The portrait of humanity that emerged was complex and somewhat frightening, but also fascinating. Your species uses toxic metals in your blood, survives on a world that would kill most of us, heals at accelerated rates, and has a history of both warfare and medicine, Dex summarized. This is unprecedented in Union records. We understand this is a lot to process, Cross said diplomatically. Humans are happy to undergo any reasonable assessments the Union requires. We have nothing to hide and everything to gain from honest cooperation. Vorna's mandibles clicked again, but this time with less aggression. What about human combat capabilities? If your biology provides these advantages, what would humans be capable of in conflict situations? Lauren chose her words carefully. Humans can be effective in combat when necessary, but we prefer not to fight. Our physical capabilities are a byproduct of surviving Earth, not preparation for conquest. Captain Hayes served in Earth's military before joining the diplomatic corps. Cross added, providing context, she can speak to human combat doctrine if necessary. All eyes turned to Lauren, who shifted uncomfortably under the attention. Human military training emphasizes discipline, restraint, and proportional response. We're taught that force is a last resort, not a first choice. Dr. Velas spoke up again. I should note that Mr. Morrison's primary concern during treatment was whether he had caused damage to station equipment. Even injured, his focus was on his responsibilities rather than his own well-being. This observation seemed to resonate with Commander Dex, who nodded slowly. That suggests a species with strong social bonds and sense of duty. Humans are social creatures, Cross confirmed. We form strong attachments to our communities and feel responsibility toward those we work with. Jake Morrison's reaction is typical of human values. The meeting continued for another hour as the command staff asked increasingly detailed questions about human biology, psychology, and culture. Cross and Lauren answered as honestly as they could, while Velas provided medical context. Finally, Commander Dex made their decision. I'm ordering a comprehensive assessment of human capabilities across all station departments. This isn't about restriction or surveillance. It's about understanding. The Union succeeds because we know how to work together effectively. We appreciate that approach. Commander, Cross said with visible relief. However, Dex continued, their tone becoming more serious. I'm also requiring that all department heads be briefed on human biological capabilities. If there's an emergency, everyone needs to understand. 3 days after the accident, Jake Morrison sat in the medical bay's recovery area feeling remarkably well considering the severity of his injuries. The deep lacerations across his arm and shoulder had sealed completely, and the tissue underneath was regenerating faster than Dr. Velas had predicted possible. The Centauri physician approached with their medical scanner active, their translucent blue skin showing patterns of fascination rather than concern. Velas had spent the past 72 hours studying Jake's recovery process with scientific enthusiasm. Your cellular regeneration rate continues to exceed my projections, Velas announced, reviewing the scan results on their handheld display. The damaged muscle tissue has regrown approximately 60% in less than half the expected time frame. Jake flexed his injured arm carefully, feeling only mild discomfort, rather than the sharp pain he'd experienced immediately after the accident. Feels pretty good, actually. I've had worse injuries playing sports back home. Worse than multiple deep lacerations and significant blood loss. Velas asked, their tone suggesting they found this hard to believe. Broke my leg in 3 places during a soccer match when I was 16. Jake said casually, that took about 8 weeks to heal fully. This should be faster since it's just soft tissue damage. Velas made notes on their medical pad while muttering in their native language. The translator struggled with the technical terminology, but Jake got the impression the doctor was cataloging human healing factors for future reference. The medical bay had seen more traffic than usual over the past few days. Various station personnel had found reasons to pass through, many of them stealing curious glances at the human patient who was recovering from injuries that should have required months of treatment. Word about human biology had spread through the station, despite Commander Dex's attempts to keep the information controlled. Gossip traveled fast in any community, and orbital station Horizon was no exception. Some aliens now avoided the human crew members entirely, giving them wide berths in corridors and declining invitations to social gatherings. Others seemed even more curious, asking questions about Earth and human capabilities with genuine interest. Jake had mixed feelings about the attention. He'd never thought of himself as particularly special or dangerous. Just a regular engineer trying to do his job well. Doctor, can I ask you something? Jake said as Velas continued their examination. Of course. Velis replied, their multiple limbs working simultaneously to check different aspects of Jake's recovery. Though, people here think humans are dangerous? Jake asked directly, preferring honest communication over diplomatic dancing around the issue. Velis paused their work and fixed Jake with their large, expressive eyes. Some do. Others are simply uncertain. Your species is very different from anything in the Union's experience. We're not trying to be scary, Jake said earnestly. We just want to fit in and contribute. I understand that, Velis assured him, their skin shifting to a reassuring shade of blue. Fear often comes from lack of understanding. As we learn more about humanity, the fear will decrease. The medical bay doors opened and Kyle Chun entered carrying a small container from the station's hydroponics section. Jake's engineering partner had visited every day since the accident, bringing news from their department and checking on his friend's recovery. Hey man, brought you something from Myra's garden, Kyle announced. Setting the container on the bedside table inside were fresh strawberries grown in the station's agricultural section. Real strawberries? Jake asked with obvious delight. I haven't had earth fruit in weeks. Dr. Velis immediately reached for their scanner. Wait, before you consume those, I should analyze them for... They're fine, Doc, Kyle interrupted gently. Myra Foster grows them specifically for human consumption. She's our botanist in the hydroponics section. Velis scanned the strawberries anyway, then froze as the results appeared on their display. The fruit contained compounds that would be mildly toxic to most species, including natural acids and sugars at concentrations that could cause digestive distress. You eat these regularly? Velis asked with concern. Sure, Jake said, popping a strawberry into his mouth and savoring the taste. Strawberries are common on Earth. We eat them fresh, in desserts, all kinds of ways, Kyle added with a grin. Humans eat lots of things that other species find concerning. Wait until you learn about our hot peppers. Hot peppers? Velis repeated, uncertain if they wanted to know. Capsaicin, Kyle explained. It's a chemical that causes pain receptors to activate. Humans eat it for flavor, even though it literally hurts. Velis' skin cycled through several colors rapidly. You deliberately consume substances that cause pain? Makes food more interesting, Jake said with a shrug. Some people can handle really spicy food. Others prefer mild. It's personal preference. The concept clearly disturbed Dr. Velis on a fundamental level. Their species avoided any sensation that registered as painful, and the idea of seeking it out for enjoyment seemed incomprehensible. Your species is fascinating and terrifying in equal measure, Velis admitted, their translator conveying a sense of bewildered respect. Kyle pulled up a chair beside Jake's bed, and the two engineers fell into comfortable conversation about work. The station's engineering department had completed the coolant line repairs and implemented new safety protocols to prevent similar accidents. Everyone's been asking about you, Kyle mentioned. Some of the crew are nervous around humans now. They heard rumors about us being from a death world. Jake sighed. Yeah, I figured that would happen. I just hope people give us a chance to prove we're not monsters. You proved that already, Kyle countered. You got hurt protecting station equipment, and your first concern was making sure nothing else got damaged. That says a lot about your character. Dr. Velis listened to this exchange while continuing their medical scans. The friendship between the two humans was evident in their body language and easy communication style. May I ask you both some questions about human relationships? Velis inquired, their scientific curiosity overriding any sense of privacy. Sure, Jake agreed. What do you want to know? How do humans form social bonds? Velis asked. Your species seems to create strong attachments very quickly. Kyle considered the question. I guess we're just wired to be social. Humans live in communities, and we depend on each other for survival. Building relationships is natural for us. We've only worked together for 3 months, Jake added. But Kyle's already someone-eyed. Trust with my life. That's pretty normal for humans in high-stress jobs. Velis found this information valuable. Many union species form bonds slowly and deliberately, taking years to develop the kind of trust these humans describe building in weeks. The medical bay doors opened again, and Mira Foster entered with another visitor. The human botanist was accompanied by a Trilaxian researcher from the xenobiology department who seemed fascinated by Earth's plant life. Jake, you're looking much better, Mira said warmly, her smile genuine as she approached the bedside. Kyle told me he delivered the strawberries. They're great, thanks Myra, Jake replied. Best thing I've eaten since the accident. The Trilaxian researcher, whose name was difficult for humans to pronounce and went by Trill for convenience, examined Jake with their sensory stalks while maintaining a respectful distance. I hope you don't mind, but I've been studying Earth's agricultural products, Trill explained through their translator. The biodiversity of your planet is remarkable. You have thousands of edible plant species. Earth's pretty diverse, Myra agreed. Different climates support different crops. Humans learn to cultivate plants across every environment type, including the toxic ones. Dr. Velis interjected, gesturing at the strawberries. Myra laughed. Everything's toxic to someone. What matters is that humans evolved alongside these plants. We can process compounds that other species can't. Trill's sensory stalks quivered with excitement. Miss Foster has agreed to share samples of Earth plants for our xenobiology database. Understanding your planet's ecosystem will help us understand humanity better. Just don't try eating anything without checking with Myra first, Kyle warned jokingly. Some Earth plants are actually dangerous even to humans. We have poisonous plants? Trill asked with alarm. Sure, Jake confirmed. Hemlock, nightshade, poison ivy. Earth has plenty of plants that can hurt you if you're not careful. Dr. Velis made more notes. There's scientific documentation of humanity growing by the hour. Every conversation revealed new aspects of human biology and culture. The group talked for nearly an hour, discussing Earth's ecosystems, human agriculture, and the various ways humans had learned to survive in diverse environments. Trill asked detailed questions about crop cultivation, while Velis focused on how diet affected human physiology. When the visitors finally left, Jake found himself alone with Dr. Velis again. The Centauri physician was reviewing their notes with evident satisfaction. You're going to write a book about humans, aren't you? Jake asked with amusement. Several books, Velis confirmed without embarrassment. Your species represents a significant gap in Union medical knowledge. Documenting human biology properly will take years of research. Happy to help however I can, Jake said sincerely. If it helps other species understand us better, that's worth the time. The emergency alarm screamed through orbital station horizon at 0300 hours, according to station time, dragging Jake Morrison from sleep in the medical bay's recovery area. His injuries had healed enough that Dr. Velis planned to discharge him the following morning, but now the entire station was responding to crisis. All personnel to emergency stations, Commander Vex's voice announced over the intercom system. Hostile vessels have attacked a civilian transport in Sector 9 and are attempting to board the station's outer ring. Jake was out of bed immediately despite Velis' protests. His engineering instincts kicked in as he pulled on his uniform over the medical bandages that still covered his healing wounds. Mr. Morrison, you're still in recovery, Velis said urgently, their skin flickering with concern. The station needs everyone who can help, Jake replied, securing his boots quickly. I can move well enough to be useful. The medical bay's communication panel lit up with incoming messages as various departments reported in. The situation was deteriorating rapidly as raiders used some kind of chemical weapon that was incapacitating. Station security forces Kyle Chun burst through the medical bay doors wearing his engineering gear and carrying Jake's equipment pack. Figured you'd want this. Lauren's organizing the human crew in the security center. What's the situation? Jake asked, shouldering the pack, despite Velis' continued objections. Raiders breached the outer ring, and they're using some kind of gas that's dropping everyone who breathes it. Kyle explained quickly. Station security can't advance because the atmosphere in sections 12 through 15 is contaminated. Dr. Velis pulled up environmental readings on their display. The gas contains compounds that trigger respiratory shutdown in most carbon-based species. Exposure causes immediate unconsciousness. Most species? Jake caught the qualifier. What about humans? Velis hesitated, running quick calculations on their medical scanner. The compounds would be irritating to human respiratory systems, but unlikely to cause unconsciousness. Your tolerance for toxic substances is significantly higher than standard. Jake and Kyle exchanged meaningful looks. Neither wanted to put themselves forward as heroes, but if they could help where others couldn't, they had a responsibility to act. We need to get to the security center, Jake decided. Heading for the door, the station corridors were chaotic with personnel moving to emergency positions, while trying to stay clear of the contaminated sections. Automated bulkheads had sealed off the affected areas, but the raiders were reportedly holding hostages, including several station personnel who'd been caught in the initial attack. Captain Lauren Hayes stood in the security center surrounded by holographic displays showing the station's layout. Her military training was evident as she coordinated response efforts with Commander Dex and Security Chief Vorna Jake. You should be in medical, Lauren said when she saw him enter. Though her tone suggested she wasn't surprised by his presence. He's healed enough to be mobile, Dr. Velis announced. Having followed Jake from the medical bay, and humans may be the only species capable of entering the contaminated zones, Commander Dex turned to face them. Their reptilian features showing the strain of command during crisis. Explain. Velis pulled up chemical analysis of the gas the raiders were using. The compounds attack respiratory systems by binding to oxygen transport molecules. Human hemoglobin's iron-based structure makes it less susceptible to this particular toxin. Less susceptible isn't the same as immune, Vorna pointed out. Their mandibles clicking with agitation. We'd need breathing masks as a precaution, Jake acknowledged. But humans could function in that environment where other species can't. Lauren was already checking equipment inventories. We have 6 humans on station currently. All of us have emergency response training. If Commander Dex authorizes it, we can go in. The decision wasn't easy. Commander Dex weighed the risks against the reality that dozens of hostages were in immediate danger and station. Security couldn't advance without suffering casualties. How many raiders are we dealing with? Lauren asked, pulling up tactical displays. Scans show approximately 12 hostile individuals in the contaminated sections. Vorna reported, they're armed but not heavily fortified. This appears to be an opportunistic raid rather than a planned assault. Opportunistic raiders using sophisticated chemical weapons? Kyle questioned skeptically. The gas canisters are Union military surplus. Vorna admitted, stolen from a depot 3 months ago. These criminals acquired equipment beyond their usual capabilities. Jake studied the station layout carefully. His engineering knowledge letting him identify access routes and structural weak points. If we enter through the maintenance corridors here and here, we can approach from 2 directions simultaneously. Lauren nodded in agreement. Standard pincer movement. We evacuate hostages while subduing the raiders with minimal force. Minimal force? Vorna seemed doubtful. If your species is as physically capable as the medical reports suggest, we're not going in there to hurt anyone unless absolutely necessary. Lauren interrupted firmly. Humans know how to show restraint. We'll secure the raiders and extract the hostages safely. Commander Dex made their decision. Authorized. Captain Hayes, you have tactical command of the human response team. Security Chief Warner will coordinate from here. Within minutes, the 6 humans on station assembled in the equipment bay. Besides Jake, Lauren, and Kyle, there were 2 security officers named Danny Wright and Lisa Park, plus Mira Foster, who insisted on coming because of her emergency medical training. They equipped themselves with breathing masks rated for toxic environments, communication devices, and non-lethal restraint equipment. Lauren distributed assignments quickly, her military experience showing in the efficient way she organized the team. Remember, our goal is hostage extraction first, raider apprehension second, Lauren emphasized. We move fast, stay coordinated, and use minimum necessary force. What if they shoot at us? Danny asked, checking his equipment. Standard evasion and cover tactics. Lauren replied, the station's lower gravity gives us mobility advantages. Use it. Dr. Velas approached with medical supplies. Please be careful. I've already spent considerable time repairing. Mr. Morrison and I'd prefer not to repeat the experience with all of you. Jake accepted the medical kit with a slight smile. We'll do our best. Doc, the team split into 2 groups as planned. Lauren led Danny and Lisa through the northern maintenance corridor, while Jake guided Kyle and Mira through the southern approach. The contaminated sections were eerie and silent except for the hiss of ventilation systems struggling to clear the toxic gas. Station personnel lay unconscious in corridors where they'd been overcome before reaching safety. How long until they wake up? Kyle asked quietly as they moved past the fallen personnel. Velas said 4 to 6 hours after exposure ends, Jake replied, checking his scanner to avoid any raiders who might be patrolling. They'll be fine once the gas clears. Mira marked the locations of unconscious personnel for a later evacuation while the team advanced deeper into the affected area. The breathing masks filtered the air effectively, though. Jake could taste something acrid even through the protection. They reached the cargo bay where the raiders had gathered their hostages. Through the observation window, Jake counted 8 station personnel being held at weapon point by 5 raiders. 3 other raiders must be elsewhere in the section, Kyle observed, probably guarding their ship. Jake activated his communicator. Team 1 to Team 2, we have visual on hostages in Cargo Bay 12. 5 hostiles present. Lauren's voice came back clearly. Team 2 approaching from north entrance. We'll breach on your signal. The coordination was precise. Both teams entered the cargo bay simultaneously from opposite sides, catching the raiders completely by surprise. Human speed in the lower gravity was remarkable. What seemed like normal movement to Jake and his team appeared as explosive action to species. Accustomed to the station's environment, Danny and Lisa moved to secure the hostages while Lauren confronted the raider leader directly. The criminal was a Draxian, a species known for piracy but not generally considered physically dangerous. Drop your weapons, Lauren commanded, her voice carrying authority that needed no translation. Draxian captain raised their weapon but hesitated when they saw humans walking through the gas without apparent distress. Confusion bought the team crucial seconds. Jake and Kyle moved on the 3 raiders closest to them, using techniques designed for restraint rather than harm. The raiders were strong but human muscle density and reaction. Time gave the team decisive advantages. The confrontation lasted less than 30 seconds. The raiders were disarmed and restrained with non-lethal bindings while the hostages were quickly assessed for injuries. How are you moving so fast? The Draxian captain demanded, their translator conveying shock and disbelief. The gas should have knocked you out instantly. Human biology. Lauren replied simply, securing the last raider's restraints. We're from a world that makes your gas seem like a mild inconvenience. Jake moved among the hostages with Mira. checking vital signs and ensuring everyone was stable. The unconscious personnel were showing signs of recovery already as the team had brought portable oxygen supplies. Team 1. This is Command. Lorna's voice came over the communicator. Sensors show 3 raid.